What's happening, everyone? Steve here, Cars with Steve, and today we're doing another head-to-head comparison. This time taking a look at the 2021 Nautilus and comparing that with the 2021 Lincoln Aviator. It's going to be an exciting time. We're going to be taking a look at the horsepower and torque specs, looking at the sizing, cargo capacity, and a number of other things. Before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to Formula Lincoln for giving me access to these two vehicles to shoot the video for you today. Drop down in the comment section below in order to find their contact details. But let's dive into it, see what the spacing dimensions are like inside of these things, and figure out what the best fit is for you. The monochrome package inside of the Nautilus is what gives this vehicle its unique look. So it is available in a few different colors. We are looking at the infinite black exterior, which means that we've got the black painted grille because we have the monochrome package. If you didn't get the monochromatic package from the factory, this would just be a spun aluminum look instead. So it almost would look silver instead of this body color paint. But really nice look to it. When it comes down to it, we've got our LED headlamps along the front, very nicely put in, and our turn signals there as well. And on top of that, because we've got the optional Lincoln Co-Pilot 360 Plus package, that's going to give us that forward sensing system as well as a front-facing camera as well. So our front-facing cameras in conjunction with our side cameras and our rear view camera are going to give us a full 360 view of the vehicle, which brings it kind of to the next level when it comes down to backing up and moving around tighter obstacles and things like that. We're looking at the monochrome package inside of the vehicle, which is why we've got this nice black wheel to it. Now, if you ask me, the monochrome package with that infinite black look, that black on black looks really sharp. The white on black look also looks really sharp. So if you get the monochrome package with the white exterior, the pristine white instead, it's going to really make things pop a little bit differently. But having said that, really nice look for the rim itself. When it comes down to tire sizing, whether you're in Canada or the US, so in Canada, we actually either have only 20s or 21-inch tires. Down in the States, you're going to have the option for either 18s, 20, or 21, depending on which trim level of the vehicle you're looking at. Now, taking a look above, as you can see there, we've got that fender that kind of pops out a little bit, really kind of makes it sit a little bit nicely, and it kind of really goes nicely along the side of the vehicle as we look at that Nautilus logo along the side. So one thing to point out, because this is the monochrome package, we also do have the Nautilus along the side there, and it is going to be a little bit of a black highlight with some silver highlights in there as well, which again make it pop, and that's the whole idea behind the monochrome package inside of the Nautilus lineup. Taking a look at the outside styling of the Aviator. Now, a couple things to point out. This is the Grand Touring version, so the hybrid version of the vehicle. So we've got a unique cutout just along the front underneath the Aviator sign in the front there, the Aviator badging, but beautiful look to it. And we've got an LED headlamp wrap around there. We've got our turning signals. And then as we start to move down, we've got our fog lamps as well, but all really nicely laid out into the grille. Looking at the tire styling inside of the vehicle. So a few things to point out when it comes down to tire size. In Canada, in the regular version of the vehicle, we're going to have either 20 or 21-inch tires. In the Grand Touring, we're going to have the 21-inch tire standard as well. Down in the States, you've got the option for either 19, 20, 21, or 22-inch tire, depending on which trim level of the vehicle you're looking at. And there are a series of different looks and styles that are available for the actual rim itself. When it comes down to the rubber, we are looking at Pirellis inside of the Aviator Grand Touring version of the vehicle, and the rubber is going to depend on the type of vehicle that you're looking at along with that tire size. Now, a couple other things to point out, as you can see, so nice styling along the side. We do have another little turn signal along the side there as well, just to give us a little bit more visibility. Nice little fender along the side. It doesn't pop out too much, but just a little bit, so kind of adds to that niceness, that really sleek look that they're going for inside of the Aviator for styling. Now, as I mentioned, this is the Grand Touring version of the vehicle, which means that we've got a cutout along the front in order to be able to charge the vehicle up, and we've also got unique badging along the top for the Aviator. Now, typically, that's going to be silver, strictly silver, but when we get inside of the Grand Touring version of the vehicle, Lincoln wanted the vehicle to pop just a little bit more. So we've got blue lettering along the Aviator in the front, and then we've also got a little bit of a blue part of the grille. Let's go take a peek at that for a second. Looking at the grille inside of the Aviator. So this is the Grand Touring model of the vehicle. We've got a beautiful honeycomb look there, just for easier airflow to power that vehicle. Now, when it comes to the logo itself, so the logo setup is going to be slightly similar across the entire Aviator lineup. But one thing that makes the Grand Touring different that we're looking at is the blue that's highlighted inside of the actual logo itself. So just along the side, so it really makes it pop, makes it a little bit more unique. Moving down, we've got our front-facing camera. That can be used for a front partial view or a front 180-degree view. And one of the nice things is when we have that in conjunction with our side cameras and our rear view camera, it's going to give us a full 360-degree view around the entire vehicle. But nice look there, and nice sleeves along the bottom as well. And as I mentioned, we do have our LED headlamps, our turn signals, as well as our fog lamps on the bottom, and it really does make this vehicle pop. Taking a look at the actual Aviator lettering there. So as you can see there, we do have that blue highlight inside of the actual Aviator badging there. So it really makes it pop out a little bit more. Moving down a little bit, so we do have our emergency access hole. So if we ever need to get access to the vehicle because our key fob has died, that's how we're going to do it. But we've also got our side view mirrors there, which are going to be power folding, so auto folding. And as we start to move down, you can just kind of make it out there, but we have one of our side view mirrors there. So our side view camera, and that camera, when we stitch it together, is going to give us that full 360 view. Moving up overhead, really solid look to this. Moving up, as you can see there, we do have that twin panel sunroof stretched along the top there, so that panoramic roof, really nice look to it. We've got our sidebars as well, and then we do have the option of installing an aftermarket crossbar. So if we need to store some things along the top, we've got the ability to do that. And moving back, as you can see, we do have our shark fin as our antenna. So rather than that kind of bulkier antenna, we've got a nice little look in the back there, and that antenna is going to be for AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. Taking a peek underneath the hood of the Nautilus. So the Nautilus lineup are going to have two available engine choices, the 2-liter turbo that we're looking at here, or it also does have an optional 2.7-liter turbo instead. From a power perspective, the 2-liter is going to be able to push out 250 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque, while the 2.7-liter engine is going to push out 335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. So a ton of power inside of this, whether you look at the 2-liter or the 2.7-liter instead. Actually, looking underneath the hood, as you can see there, we've got the ability to easily top up some fluids if we need to. We can either check or change our oil if we have a preference to do that ourselves, and we've also got easy access to our battery, so if we ever need to give anybody a boost, we can easily do that. Looking at some standard technology inside of the Nautilus. So as you can see there, we've got our backup camera. We also do have a reverse sensing system. Now this vehicle also is equipped with a blind spot system, so it lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, and it also does have a lane keeping and a lane centering system, which you can toggle that system on and off if you really don't like it. Now on top of that, we do have an optional 360 camera, so as you can see there, we can just kind of make out that camera along the bottom there, and we also do have a forward sensing system when we get that package. So a ton of different options that are going to be available and standard inside of this vehicle as a default. Filling up fuel inside of the vehicle is a very straightforward process. So along the entire Lincoln lineup, capless system, insert your hose, fill up, and you're set to go. When it comes down to fuel quality inside of the Nautilus, in the regular 2-liter engine, and even the 2.7, it's just your regular 87 gas, or regular 87 octane. Do you need to use a higher quality? No, but you'll absolutely notice a difference if you go between the 87 versus the 91. So definitely recommend, especially if you're going to be going the 2.7-liter engine, use that higher octane, like ideally a 91 or ideally a 93 if you've got the budget for it. Now, taking a peek underneath the hood of the Aviator. So the Aviator, we actually do have two different engine choices that are available. It actually is technically the same 3-liter twin turbo engine, but we are looking at the hybrid, which means it also does have a micro battery. So really nice from a power perspective. The regular 3-liter twin turbo is going to push out 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque, while the 3-liter hybrid that we're looking at here is going to be able to push out 494 horsepower and 630 pound-feet of torque. So tons of power from that perspective. Looking underneath the hood, as you can see there, we can easily change some fluids if we need to, top some things up. We've got easy access to our battery, and we've also got the ability to easily check or change our oil if we need to. So we've got our dipstick, and then we've also got our oil cap there as well. And we've got access to the fuse panel along the top as well, but really nice and clean look underneath the hood of this thing. Looking at some standard technology inside the vehicle, we do have our backup camera, as well as our reverse sensing system, so we can just kind of make out the reverse sensors there. And we also do have the ability to use a 5-digit number in order to get access to the vehicle. So if we don't have the key fob on us, we can enter a 5-digit factory number to get in. We do have the ability to program in a separate 5-digit number if you're going to remember that one a little bit easier. Other standard technology, we do have a blind spot system, and then we also do have a lane keeping system, so lane keeping and lane centering. Now this one is the hybrid, so as you can see there, we do have our charge port along the front there. And moving along the front of the vehicle, depending on the trim level that you're in, we do also have the option for that 360 camera. So we've got the full 360 camera, and we've also got our forward sensing system in there as well. But really nice look. Now, this is actually unique to the hybrid, this blue kind of look inside. I actually love the look of this thing because I love the look of blue. But if we look at another Lincoln, for instance, like if we look at the Navigator, this is typically what we're going to see in the regular gas engines. So it's kind of neat that they really have made the hybrid step apart and look a little bit different by adding in those touches of blue there. In order to be able to fill up gas inside of this thing, it's a very straightforward process. Now, we are looking at the hybrid, which means it's got a lockable gas cap. The regular gas engine does not have a lockable cap there, so definitely something to take into account, but it's the same capless system that we would see across the entire Lincoln lineup. So once you've done filling up, all you're gonna do is just click it, lock it back into place. Now, when it comes into fuel quality, minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just your regular 87 gas, so regular 87 octane. Now, having said that, this is a 3-liter twin-turbo engine, so it's a performance vehicle. So at a minimum, I recommend using a 91 octane, ideally a 94 instead, but at least that 91, you're gonna notice about a 10% boost in performance moving from the 87 to the 91 instead. So definitely something to take into account. When it comes down to towing inside of the Nautilus, towing power, whether you're looking at the 2-liter or the 2.7 liter, they're both rated for the same. You're gonna be able to pull up to 3,500 pounds if you get the tow package directly from the factory. Now, do you need to get the tow package from the factory? No, but a few benefits is that on top of the look of it, because it's going to be cut into the bumper nicely, it also is going to give you that trailer sway control, which you cannot upgrade after the fact as well. So you do need to get that directly from the factory. So if you're gonna be pulling a trailer, boat, things like that, get the package from the factory. If you're looking at just doing like a bike rack carrier and things like that, you can look at something aftermarket as an install instead. Now, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle, so as you can see there, we've got our unlock and our lock button, remote start, our trunk release, as well as our horn or our panic alarm. On top of that, we also do have another key as well, so if we ever need to get emergency access to the vehicle, we can easily do that. Now, one thing that's nice is that we do have the ability to remote start directly through the key fob, or we can use our cell phone instead. So whether you're looking at an Android or an iPhone device, you can use the Lincoln Way app in order to be able to remote start, and you can also do a number of other things directly through that app as well, which is great. Now, getting into the trunk of the vehicle, we've got a few different ways. So on the key fob, as you can see there, we can double press that button in order to get into the trunk. We've also got the option just underneath the L in Lincoln. There's a button underneath that we can use in order to lift this thing up. But one of the nice things about the Lincoln lineup is that we also do have a foot-activated power liftgate. So key in your pocket, hands full of groceries, of kids, whatever the case may be. All you're gonna do is just swipe your foot underneath and step back. And as you can see, foot-activated power. Love it. Let's have a look inside. Now, taking a peek at the cargo dimensions of the vehicle. So as you can see there, we do have quite a little bit of extra space in the back of the vehicle, and that second row is a 60-40 split, so 60% driver, 40% passenger. So we've got the ability to easily fold down one side or the other if we need a little bit of extra space. Now take a look at the difference there. When we have that second row folded down, we've got a bunch more space inside of this. Now, we do have the option of folding down the driver or the passenger seat separately if we need to. So if you want to create a little bit more space, one side or the other, we've got the ability to easily do that. Now, a few things to point out in our cargo area. So along the back there, as you can see, we do have the option of adding in a privacy shade if we need to, so we can easily hook that up, or we can take it out very simply. Along the left side, we've got a 12-volt adapter there, so traditional cigarette lighter adapter, and we've also got power seats. So in the Nautilus, the second row seat is going to be power. Now, having said that, it's power down, but we do have to manually lift it back up. So one thing to consider there, but as you can see, we can press and hold the button in order to be able to drop either seat down. Very straightforward there. And looking down, so this is going to be the standard cover that we're going to see inside the vehicle. We do have the option for a thermoplastic rubber tray instead. So if you're going to be carrying dogs and things like that, and you want to make sure that this stays a little bit cleaner, you've got that option. Taking a peek underneath the back, as you can see there, we do have our mini spare tire, which is going to be standard. We've got our little spigot, as well as a bunch of storage space along both sides as well. Looking at towing inside of the Aviator, some packages have it, but it is available across the entire lineup, so you can add it on without going to those higher packages. When we get it from the factory, which I definitely recommend you do, because not only is it an improved towing capacity, but it's also hidden underneath this plastic part in the bottom there, so it's nice that it's kind of hidden away. It's not going to get rusted off like what you traditionally find. From a towing perspective, looking at the hybrid engine, you're going to max out at 5,600 pounds. When you're in the regular 3-liter twin-turbo gas engine, that thing's going to be able to pull up to 6,700 pounds instead. So definitely recommend getting the hitch from the factory, because not only do we have it looking nicer, we have a higher towing capacity, we also do have our trailer sway control as well. So if the vehicle senses a trailer sway going on, it's automatically going to apply engine braking in order to get that sway under control. Now, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle. So a few things to point out. We've got our unlock and our lock button, our remote start, which we can either remote start on the key fob, or we can use the Lincoln Way app on an Android or iPhone device in order to be able to remote start that way. We've got our trunk release, as well as our horn or a panic alarm button. And then we also do have our emergency access key. Now, remote starting is very straightforward. We press the lock button once, circle button twice, and then in order to get underneath into the trunk, I should say, we've got the ability to either double press this button, or we've also got a few different options on the outside of the vehicle. So just underneath the L in Lincoln, if we go right underneath, there's a button there. So we can button press that in order to lift this thing up. But across the Lincoln lineup, we also do have a foot activated liftgate. So all you're gonna do, if you have a handful of groceries, kids, whatever the case may be, or you just want to grab for your key fob, all you're gonna do is just swipe your foot underneath and step back. Look at that. Power foot activated liftgate. Let's have a peek inside. Now, taking a peek at the cargo dimensions. So as you can see there, that's just going to be for the cargo area back here itself. So we do have a little bit of space there. Now, one of the nice things about the Aviator is that it is 3 rows, and we can also fold the seats down individually. So the setup that we've got for that middle row is the dual captain's chair. So if we wanted to just fold down the left side to get some lumber and things like that in there, we've got the ability to easily do that. Okay, now let's take a look at the difference when we've got that second row folded down. So a little bit more space than you'd see in the Nautilus, and we've got a little bit more width as well. So if you need a little bit of extra space, I would definitely recommend looking at the Aviator instead, because even with that second row folded down, we still do have 4 seats. We've got the optional 5-seat configuration depending on what we do with that middle row. All right, now let's see how that compares. So when we've got the other row folded down, so the second and the third row folded down, look at all the space that we've got inside of this vehicle. I've got the driver passenger seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall, and we still do have a ton of space in behind that first row. So if you need to load a few more things in, definitely recommend looking at the Aviator or the Navigator as an option instead. Right now, taking a look at this back row. So a few things to point out. First and foremost, along the left-hand side there, as you can see, we've got some cargo hooks and the option of throwing in a cargo cover as well. Along the right-hand side, we've got a little light, and we also do have our seats. So we've got the ability to fold that third row seat down, and that's done power. So it's power up and power down. We can fold them both down together, or we can fold them down individually instead. So it's really going to be a matter of what you need as we start to move down. We also do have a 12-volt adapter, so a traditional cigarette lighter adapter. And we've also got this little guy. So cranking this thing up, as you can see there, we've got a little bit of storage space underneath. We've got some space off to the left and the right-hand side, and we can just lift this thing up if we need to in order to get access to our mini spare tire. Second row spacing inside of the Nautilus. So I'm 6 feet tall. The driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. I still have a nice amount of knee room, so more than enough, and I've got some decent foot space as well. Now, one thing to note, this second row is not adjustable like we would find in the Corsair or the Aviator. So definitely something to take into account. But having said that, we can adjust the backrest a tiny little bit. So we can move it back a bit. When that happens, I've got about an inch of headspace. So not a ton. So if you've got somebody who's, 6'4", 6'5", they're definitely either sitting in the front seat or you're looking at the Aviator or the Navigator as an option instead. Now, looking at some second row features, as you can see there, we do have our pockets along the driver and the passenger side, and we also do have heated seats. So as we start to move down a little bit, we've got a traditional wall outlet as well as our USB and our USB-C. So a few different ports to charge some things up. Now, as we start to look along the back as well, so really, really nice look. I love how sharp this seat looks inside of it. Nice contrast between the black and the browns there. But moving down there, as you can see, we've got a few cup holders. We're just going to pull that down and click it in order to lock it back into place. Now, taking a peek here, so as you can see, we do have the option for the dual captain's chairs with the console in the middle instead. We actually have 3 different configuration options for this middle row inside of the Aviator. We can have it with the dual captain's chairs with that console, we can get the dual captain's chairs with no console, or we can get a bench seat instead with 3 seats in this middle row. It's ultimately going to depend on do you need a 6 or a 7-seat configuration. Now, if you only need like a 4 or 5 seat, I would recommend getting maybe without the console. And the big reason why is because it's easier to pass through to the back. We do have the option of power sliding, so we can press the button there in order to get in the back. And then I'm 6 feet tall, and at the end of the day, I can technically easily get into the back here easy enough, but it's going to be a matter of personal preference there. All right, so moving this seat back, we do have the ability to move this thing forward a little bit more if we need to, but with the seat all the way back, I've got just enough knee room here. So definitely something to take into account. Looking up overhead, I've got about 2.5 inches of headspace up overhead. So if you've got some taller people, they absolutely can fit back here, but if you're getting into that like 6'4", 6'5" category, they're definitely at least in the middle seat, ideally in that front seat as well. But taking a look in the back here, there's not a ton of stuff in the back row of the Aviator. As you can see there, we've got a few cup holders along both sides, and we've also got some more cargo tie downs as well. Now taking a look at the second row of the vehicle, driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. This seat is actually not forward all the way, so I could still move it forward a bit to create a little bit more space for people in the back. Even when I do, I've got a teeny little bit of knee room. But if you don't necessarily care about the people in the back or there's nobody sitting back there, we can slide this back a little bit more. With the seat all the way back, tons of knee room, tons of foot room. Up overhead, I've got about 2 inches of head clearance space as well. So if you've got some tall people, could they fit back here? Yes. But one of the nice things is that we've also got the ability to adjust and move the seat back a little bit more. So that gives me about 2.5, almost 3 inches of space up overhead if I've got the seat all the way back with it fully reclined. So if you've got some taller people, you might need to look at the Navigator as an option instead, but this thing is actually very comfortable, which is kind of nice. Now, as I mentioned, we've got some different options to figure out what's going on with this middle row. If you need the 7-seat configuration, get the bench seat, but if you only need a smaller configuration, like 3 or 4 people, I would recommend looking at the one without this console in the middle instead, because it's just infinitely easier to pass through that back row. Now looking at some second row features. So first thing to point out, we do have the option of launching this cargo shade up. So really, really nice, especially on those brighter days. And then we can just manually drop it back down there. Along both the driver and the passenger side, as you can see, we also do have pockets along both sides. Now moving down, this is going to be standard regardless of what's happening with this console in the middle. But as you can see, we've got some seat control settings. So we've got the ability to turn on our heated seats. We've got our climate control, audio, and some basic settings as well. Now, regardless of what happens with this middle row, like even if you get the bench seat in the middle there is never going to be heated. It's just going to be the outboard seats on the driver and the passenger side. Now, as we start to move down a tiny little bit more, we've got our vents. Moving down a little bit, as you can see there, we do have our USB and our USB-C. Along the right-hand side, we do have a traditional wall outlet, so 150 volt if we ever need, 150 watt, I should say, if we ever need to plug anything in there. Now with the option, with the console, as you can see there, we do have a few cup holders. We've got a little bit of storage space, and the people in the back also can control what's going on with the sunshade up overhead. So they do have the ability to open and close it as necessary. And then we've got a little storage pocket with a few more USB ports down there as well. Now, tons of different options when it comes down to it. Whether you get this one or not is going to be a matter of preference. When we get the one without the console, it's literally just going to be a pass-through to the back instead. So it's going to really be a matter of what your personal preference is. When we get the one with the bench seat, the cup holders move from down there, obviously into the bench. It would just be in the back row of the bench seat instead. All right, now looking along our driver's side door. So as you can see there, we do have our unlock and our lock buttons. We've got our seat memory buttons, which are going to be great because it's going to remember our seat, our steering wheel, and our side view mirror. So we can create a few different profiles there if we'd like to. Moving down, we've got our window control buttons. So we've got the ability to power fold our side view mirrors first and foremost, and then our basic window up and down. Now this one also does have a Revel audio system, and you're going to have a number of different speakers that are available and positioned throughout the vehicle. Now, just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, so a few things to point out. So as you can see there, we've got the ability to open or close our trunk. We can turn our traction control system on or off as well. This is going to be the dimmer switches for our cluster screen, so we've got the ability to either increase or decrease the brightness from there. And we've also got the ability to figure out what's going on with our running lamps. Adjusting the driver's seat inside of the Nautilus is going to be a power process, and that's going to be the same for the driver and the passenger seat. We've got the ability to move the seat forwards, backwards, up and down. We can adjust our backrest there as well as the headrest. Now, one of the nice things about the Nautilus is that we do also have an optional massage chair seat, which is oh so nice. Really, really great for those longer distance trips. This specific one that we're sitting in doesn't have it, but it is available inside of the Nautilus, which is incredible. Adjusting the steering wheel is also going to be a power process. Just by our left knee, we've got a little button there, so a little dial pad. We can just move that forwards and backwards as it's a telescopic wheel, so we can go forwards, backwards, up and down, and really adjust it the way that we'd like. Once we've got our steering wheel set up, our seat, and our side view mirror, either press and hold 1, 2, or 3 along that driver's side door in order to set up your own personal profile. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel. So really, really nice look to this thing. Now there is no difference from the 2020 to the 2021 model year, so the layout is the same. But let's kind of go through some of these buttons so you can figure out what's going on. So we've got the ability to change between songs or radio stations. We can either increase or decrease our volume. So very straightforward in order to be able to do that. We've also got the adaptive cruise control system inside of this vehicle as well. So optional as well, but when we get the adaptive cruise control, I do recommend getting it and using it. So the adaptive cruise control, what that's going to do do is if the vehicle in front of you slows down, yours is automatically going to brake as well before you picking you right back up to your set speed again. So really, really great feature. We've got the ability to turn it on from there. So as you can see, we've got that button there. This one is going to be our distance indicator. So how far or how close are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? We've got the ability to turn our lane centering system on. So the lane centering keeping system actually works 3 different ways. Way number 1, if the vehicle senses that you start to veer over without signaling, it's going to give you a little bit of a steering wheel shake, almost as if you're running over rumble pavement. Way number 2 is it's actually going to recenter you and pull you back into your lane. And way number 3 is it'll give you a shake and it'll recenter you and pull you back into your lane again. So really, really neat. We've got the ability to either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time as well. And we can just turn the system off if we'd like to. Along the right-hand side, we've got the ability to answer or hang up on a phone call. We've got some basic display settings. So we've got the ability to look at some different gauges. So we can add in our tachometer or an eco coach instead, which looking at that beautiful digital cluster screen, it looks incredible. We've got the ability to kind of change things a little bit. We don't have a ton of flexibility when it comes down to the overall look, but we can kind of add some things in if we'd like to. We've got basic display settings. We've got our audio. We can look at some navigation routes. And then we've also got some basic settings to look at some driver assistance settings and a few others. If you're looking for more of a rundown on how the steering wheel buttons and cluster screen works, as well as how this Sync 3 screen works, check down in the description below because I've put together a full comprehensive walk around on how this system actually works. So really, really neat. But we also do have a heated steering wheel when we get the Elements package inside of this vehicle, and it is the wraparound heat, which is great. So I honestly love the look of this thing. So this interior does look really, really sharp. We've got that nice leather dash along the side there, and it just really does pop. Now, as we start to move forward a little bit, so as you can see there, we do have our minus and our plus button. So that is going to be for our gear shifter. So we've got the ability to change out gears easily if we need to. We don't necessarily have to be in the sport mode in order to do that. But when you're in the sport mode, it's going to hold onto the gears a little bit longer. Looking along our left turning stick, we've got the ability to turn our lane keeping system on or off if we'd like to. And we've got our high beams from there. Along the right side, we've got rain sensing wipers. So if your vehicle is equipped with rain sensing wipers, we've got the ability to adjust how sensitive it is to the rain that's hitting the windshield. Along the right-hand side of the stick there, we've got the ability to adjust what's going on with our rear wipers. We're going to pull in towards us for those front, and we're going to push away for the rear wipers. Now looking off to the right-hand side, so this is the brand new Sync 4 system for the 2021 model year. So really, really great look to it. In the previous gen, it was kind of pushed into the dash. It did look a little bit weird. So I really love the fact that they upgraded this for the 2021 model year, really bringing it more in line with the rest of the Lincoln lineup. So 12.3-inch screen. One of the nice things about this new Sync 4 system is that we've got wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay now. So you could use the factory navigation if you wanted to, or you could run off of Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze directly through this middle screen, which is really, really nice. And we've got a really beautiful look and a layout here. So we've got our audio settings, phone, we've got factory navigation, and a number of other things. If you're looking for more of an in-depth look on how that system works, check down in the description below because I've put together a full comprehensive walk-around video on how this screen actually works. But looking at some basics, as you can see there, we've got some basic settings. So we've got the ability to easily add phones. We can set up our own personal profiles as well if you have multiple people driving the vehicle. We can change the display. We've got a new Lincoln Assistant as well. So we've got our voice command button on the steering wheel. So our voice command button there, that's actually a neat one because that's going to give us the ability to not only change radio stations and make phone calls, but it's also going to give us the ability to use factory navigation. And if we were connected through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, we could use either our Google Assistant or Siri instead by pressing that button, which is kind of neat. Using the Lincoln Assistant, though, we can set up wake words, so we can say, hello, Lincoln, and hey, Lincoln, and it'll automatically recognize our voice for us to be able to do those same features, which is really cool. We've got a new digital owner's manual and a number of other screens. Right now, as we start to move down, so a few things to point out there. So as you can see, this vehicle is equipped with park assist, so the vehicle can help us out with either navigating to a parking spot. We can look at active park assist as well, which the vehicle can help us out with parallel perpendicular parking or parallel park out. So we've got a lot of features and functionalities there. We also do have a 360 camera. So by pressing this 360 camera button, as you can see, so it's a full wraparound, so a full 360 view. We've got a front partial view or a front 180 degree view instead. And then one more button press in order to get rid of that. Moving down a bit more, we also do have a hot button press for some basic driver assistance settings. Moving down a bit more, we've got some piano keys. So we've got the ability to change between park, reverse, neutral, drive, and we've got our sport mode. Big difference between the drive versus the sport mode. The sport mode is going to hang onto the gears a little bit longer. And we've got our push button start there. As we start to move down, we've got our volume rocker. So nice inside of this thing. Moving down, we've got some basic controls, so we've got the ability to change stations that way. Honestly, this is probably going to be the least effective method because we've got the ability to direct tune if we'd like to, or we can just press the voice command button on the steering wheel in order to use our voice to change stations instead. As we start to move down a little bit more, we've got some basic climate control settings, and then we do have heated and cooled front seats and dual zone climate control. Moving down a tiny little bit more, we've got a little shade there. We do have a wireless charging pad there, as well as a traditional USB and our USB-C. We do have a few cup holders, and picking those up, as you can see there, we do have a traditional cigarette lighter adapter and a few little spaces for some coins there as well. And we also do have the option of dropping this tray down, so if we need a little bit more storage space, we've got that flexibility as well. Now as we start to move up overhead, so this is an auto-dimming mirror as well, so really nice because if it recognizes things are a little bit too bright behind us, it's automatically going to dim the mirrors for us as well. As we start to go up overhead a little bit more, as you can see, we've got some basic controls for our lights on the inside. We've got our shade controls as well for this beautiful panoramic roof. Look at this. So nice. Fully stretched across the roof there, as you can see, but this is the only section of the roof that's going to be movable. So this front section there, but really sharp look to it. We can either vent it out or we can completely open or close it from there. Up overhead, we do have sunglasses holder there. So our sunglasses holder, really straightforward. And as you can see there, we also do have a few proximity sensors. Up along the left-hand side there, as I should say, we do have home links. We've got the ability to program in a garage door opener if we've got one at home. And we do have a traditional vanity mirror with our lights along the side. We can pop this open and we can just stretch it along the side there if we need to. Just click in order to lock it back into place. All right, now looking along our driver's side door. So this is actually how we're going to adjust the driver's seat. So the driver passenger seat for that front row is going to be a power process, but it's not along the driver passenger seat, it is along our driver's side door there. So we've got the ability to move the seats forwards, backwards, up and down. We can even adjust each leg individually inside of this thing. Like, how cool is that? So if you've got some legs that are a little bit lopsided, you've got the ability to easily adjust for whatever is comfortable for you. We can adjust individual elements of the backrest as well, which is really neat. So we can go up or down with each individual part in the actual middle screen there. So we do have a few more options that are available, and it kind of goes through a little bit more. So we've got the ability to adjust each cushion individually as well. We can move this headrest up or down. We can move it forwards and backwards. So we've got a lot of flexibility there. And we also do have massage chair seats inside of the Aviator as well. So really comfortable from that perspective. Now, other parts of the door to point out, as you can see, we've got our unlock and our lock buttons. We've got the ability to power fold our side view mirrors. We can adjust our mirrors, and then we've also got our window up and down. Now, unlike most Lincoln vehicles, as you can see there, we don't have a traditional door handle. We're actually going to press this button in order to be able to open the door up from the inside. Now, if for whatever reason the power ever dies, we do have an emergency latch along the bottom there if we ever need to get out of the vehicle as well. Looking just to the left-hand side there, so as you can see, left-hand side of the steering wheel, a few things to point out. We've got the ability to either open or close our trunk there, so we've got some trunk adjustment buttons there. We've got the ability to open up our locking gas cap, so we just press that. Now, if you're in the regular gas engine, this would not be there. We would just have this button for the trunk release instead. We've got the ability to turn on our fog lamps, figure out what's going on with our running lamps, and then adjust the brightness of this cluster screen there, so we can make that darker or brighter depending on your own personal preference. Adjusting the driver's seat inside of the Aviator is a very straightforward process. It's power, and those buttons are located just along our driver's side door, and it's going to be the same way for the passenger door. So we would adjust it on both doors instead. So it kind of catches people off guard the first time you jump in. You think you're going to adjust on this side, but it is on our driver door. When it comes into the steering wheel, just by our left knee, and it's telescopic, so telescopic power, so we can go in, out, up, and down. Once you've got that perfect position for your steering wheel, for your driver's seat, and your side view mirrors, you can press and hold either 1, 2, or 3 along that side door there in order to create your own unique profile. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel. So first thing to point out, this thing, beautiful leather wrapped steering wheel, and it is heated as well, which is great, heated all the way around. So if you're driving up here, down here, etc., really nice from that perspective. Looking along the top left-hand side, we've got our voice command button, and that's going to give us the ability to either make phone calls, change radio stations, and navigate using our voice instead, which is really nice. Moving down, we've got the ability to either change songs or radio stations. We can increase or decrease our volume if we'd like to. And then we've also got a button in order to kind of adjust what's going on there. So as you can see, this is going to be for our adaptive cruise control system, but we've got buttons that are they're hidden. So depending on what's going on both this button and the other buttons as well, that's going to kind of adjust what's showing up. So as you can see there, we have buttons that essentially hide based off of whatever's currently going on in the vehicle, which is kind of nice. The adaptive cruise control side of things is a really nice setting because the adaptive cruise control essentially essentially works a few different ways. Really, really nice because if you've got the adaptive cruise control speed set up, what's going to happen is if the vehicle recognizes an oncoming vehicle, it's automatically going to slow you down. It can pull you down to a complete stop, and then it can pick you right back up to your set speed again. So it's a really, really cool system from that perspective. I'm not going to lie, the first couple times you use the system, it is a little bit challenging to get used to it, but once you get used to it, it's an incredible system. Moving down a little bit more, so just kind of sliding our fingers up and along the back there, we've got the ability to either increase or decrease our speed. So once we've got our speed set, so we can increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. If for whatever reason you press the brake, we can easily resume along the button there. Along the right-hand side, we've got our distance indicator. So how far or how close are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? You can adjust your distance there. And this one is going to be our lane centering system. So we've got the ability to have our lane centering system going. That works 3 different ways. Way number 1, if we start to veer over into lane without signaling, get a little bit of a steering wheel shake. Way number 2 is it'll actually recenter us and pull us back into our lane. Way number 3 is it's going to shake and recenter us and pull us back into our lane, which is kind of nice. And just button press to get rid of those settings again. Off to the right-hand side, we've got the ability to select what's going on in those middle screens there. So we've got some different screens that we can jump in between. So tire pressure monitors, calming screen, and a few others. And we've got the ability to adjust what's going on there. Now, one of the nice things is that this thing does have a heads-up display, which we may not really be able to make it out, unfortunately. It's a little bit bright outside there, but it is a gorgeous display there. So it is available as an option inside of the Aviator. Now, as we start to move down a bit more, so we can jump back, we've got some basic audio settings. So jump between our AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. Moving up, we can navigate. Moving to the right, we can make phone calls. And then moving back down, we've got some other options for some settings. Now, if you're looking for a more of a comprehensive breakdown on how all of these features work, as well as that Sync 3 screen, check down in the description below because I've done a full walk-around video on how this vehicle works. But really, really nice. I love the look and what they've done with this vehicle. Now, as we start to move in a little bit, so as you can see there, we do have our minus and our plus buttons, and that's going to be for our gear. So we've got the ability to either decrease or increase a gear if we'd like to. And along the left stick, as you can see, we've got our lane keeping system, which we can turn on or off if we'd like to. And we can also flick our high beams on or off from there. Right-hand side, so if your vehicle is equipped with the rain sensing wipers, this is going to adjust how sensitive it is to the rain that's hitting your windshield. Along the right side on the end, as you can see, we've got the ability to turn on or off our rear wiper as well. We can pull in towards us for those front wipers, or we can push away for the rear. All right, next up, taking a peek at the center stack. So a few things to point out. First and foremost, as you can see there, we do have our start-stop buttons. So press that in order to turn the vehicle on or off. And we've got this beautiful Sync 3 system. So Sync 3 system inside of the Aviator, which means we are on wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. We will have factory navigation, but we do have the ability to hook up using Waze, Google Maps, or Apple Maps directly through this middle screen, which is incredible. Looking, we've got a number of basics. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be the hybrid, so that's why we've got these power flow and charge settings. If we just had the regular gas engine, those buttons wouldn't be there, but everything would look essentially the exact same. We've got some basics for audio. Ooh, let's do a quick audio test. So nice. So nice. I love the way that this thing sounds. And that's the Revel audio system that's inside of this thing. Speakers literally all over the place, which is incredible. Now, we've got the ability to easily change sources. We've got some basic phone settings, navigation, and our basic settings as well. So looking at some basic settings, the big one that I'm going to point out right now are driver assistant settings. So we've got our adaptive cruise. The cruise control can actually be set up 3 different ways. So we've got our normal cruise control, the adaptive, or the intelligent. The intelligent cruise control is all based off of speed sign recognition. So if you've got it set to 60 kilometers an hour and the speed drops from 60 to 50 and the vehicle picks up on that, it's automatically going to slow you down instead. So really, really great system. Pre-collision assist, so if the vehicle senses a collision, it's imminent, it's actively going to brake or evasively steer for us. So take over the steering wheel and it's going to try to avoid the collision. We've got our blind spot system. Now, this is also one of the other reasons why you want to get the tow package from the factory, because not only do we have the sway control, we also have trailer blind spot. So if we enter our trailer dimensions, the blind spot system is not only going to pick up the blind spot for the vehicle, it's also going to pick up the blind spot for the trailer. So if a vehicle enters our blind spot on either side of the trailer or the vehicle, it's automatically going to let us know that that's going on. So really, really nice. We've got a ton of different things: reverse brake assist, auto hold, hill descent control, things like that. As I mentioned, check down in the description below for the comprehensive walk around on this. Moving down, as you can see there, we do have our park buttons. So we've got our active park assist and we can navigate to parking as well. We've also got our full 360 camera, so really, really beautiful view there. And we can also switch it up from a 360 view to a front partial view or to a front 180 degree view as well. and then moving back to our 360-degree view again from there. So really, really nice, and then we can just button press. Oh, we can button press in order to get rid of that one again. Moving down, so 360 camera, and we also do have our basic driver assistant settings, so we can turn some settings on or off. All right, now this, piano keys. So this is the same across the entire Lincoln lineup now, but we've got our park, reverse, neutral, drive. We don't have sport mode inside of this. Now that's going to be the same for the gas engine as well. So unfortunately, we don't have the ability to manually press that one in order to get the sport mode, but we do have the ability to use the paddle shifters either way if we'd like to. Moving down, we've got our volume rocker, our tuning knob, changing between different sources, or we can lock out that rear console so people in the back cannot play around with it. We've got some basic climate control settings, and because of the model of the vehicle we're in, we've got our heated steering wheel, as well as our heated and cooled front seats. Now, as we start to move down, we've got a few different sliders there. So as you can see, we do have a slider, as well as our traditional USB and our USB-C port. Moving along the other side, we do have a little storage area for our phone if we'd like to, as well as a few cup holders. As you can see there, we also do have our electronic parking brake. And, ooh, drive modes. Let's get to that for a second. So we've got a series of selectable drive modes there. So as we start to move that knob over, so we've got our normal, we've got our conserve, we've got our excite, and we've also got, on the other side, our slippery and then the deep snow conditions. So each drive mode is going to do something different. When you get into the excite mode, that's going to hang onto the gears a little bit longer. So it really helps you with that added performance. Versus if you look at that slippery, so the deep snow mode specifically, it's going to adjust what's going on with the traction control and the stability control as well in order to help out with that tire grip as we go. So back down, as you can see there, we do have a console in the middle, and you can just kind of make it up where we've got a little storage area there. And we also do have our wireless charging pad, so we can make that out there. So really, really nice if you've got a phone that supports wireless charging, we can set that up easily. And then as you can see, a little bit of storage space. And as we move up overhead, so as you can see there, we've got an auto-dimming rear view mirror, some basic controls for our lights there as well, so we can toggle those on or off if we'd like to. Well, folks, that was a look at the Nautilus versus the Aviator. What did you think? If you have any questions, drop down in the comments section below and let me know, and I'm more than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having, making up your decision on which way you should go. If you enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up, think about subscribing, and until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe.